The College Football Experience 2025 Red Hot Coaching Seats Edition episode on the Sports Gambling Podcast Network is brought to you by Underdog Fantasy. Sign up at UnderdogFantasy.com. Use our promo code TCE SGPN to get up to $1,000 in bonus credits. And remember, as always, folks, to let it ride.
Hey everybody, Jim McMahon here, and you're listening to SGPN. Let it ride.
Yes. Woo! Welcome to the College Football Experience. Hot coaching seat edition. The temperatures are fucking hot for this episode because we got coaching potential. Who's got the hottest seat? I think we're going to be talking. Who will make it through the season? Who will not? With the 2025 season, you're just a few months away. I mean, I think it's technically football season. YouTube.com/The College Experience. Get on over there, hit that like and subscribe button. And I think this could be the most interesting hot seat episode we've done in 8 years of being a show, just because of the jobs involved, the amount of franchises. In a way, it's franchises, teams involved. So excited to talk about all the action. You can be a part of the chat though. YouTube.com/The College Experience. Get on over there if you're wondering who the hell you're listening to. That's fair. My name is Colby Swing It Database Dan, aka Pick Dundee. That's not a pick. This is a pick.
He was raised in the land down under, where a man thinks on his feet, speaks with his fists, and lives by his wits.
When Dundee happened, he was a superstar.
He's the kind of guy that would drink a gallon of gasoline so he could piss in your campfire. You could drop this guy off at the Arctic Circle wearing a pair of bikini underwear without his toothbrush, and tomorrow afternoon he's going to show up at your poolside with $1 million smile and a fistful of pesos.
There'll be a lot of college football coaches, even with getting firing, that might have $1 million smile and a fistful of pesos. With these buyouts that happen, you get paid not to coach. What an industry. Ask Jimbo Fisher. He's got like 6 ranches. Texas A&M paid him like $80 million to not coach. What a world. I am joined by my co-host who was given up for former staffer at Austin Peay, South Carolina, and West Virginia, Ryan McIntyre, a.k.a. Moneyline Mac. How are you, brother?
I will speak for all the Mountaineer fans. We are glad we do not have to do the hot seat again this year. We did the hot seat with Neil for the last 3 years, so on comes Rich Rod, no hot seat of Morgantown this year.
Mac tonight. Come on, make it Mac tonight.
Yeah, it's got to feel fun. Just, I've been there, even with ECU, I don't know that I like it, but we're not, at least we know he's not on the hot seat. He's not on the hot seat in year one. Blake Harrell, that is. So, it's relieving if your team has been on this over the past couple of years to not be on it. Some still are. And we're going to talk about each and every one of those. And, you had this looming, the ever-changing landscape of college athletics where they're backdated a little bit to paying these athletes. I think it's $20 million or something, give or take. So there wasn't as many firings a year ago, even though there was, how about this? There was not as many high profile jobs. I know there was as many, but it seemed like a lot of the coaches that were on the fence from a year ago, Billy Napier, we're going to give him an extra year. I feel like there's a slew of other coaches I could say in that same vein where you're like, let's Sam Pittman. Let's give him an extra year because they know they're paying the players. They want to get their ducks in order. So I think it has potentially if things go bad, you could have, I think, the biggest high profile jobs historically in the sport. And we're going to talk about all these, but just off the top of my head right now, if things went really bad, you could have potentially jobs open up at Florida, Alabama, Auburn, LSU, Nebraska, USC, Wisconsin. That's just off the top of my head.
The Virginias.
I mean, how many teams have played in a national championship or been in the national championship? At least in my lifetime, that's a lot of big time programs. And I'm probably forgetting. You could even throw a couple other blue bloods in there that we're going to get to on this episode. That's why it's a ton of fun. I love doing the hypothetical, who's going to lose their job. I know some say it's cruel, but I would gladly lose my job for $50 million or something like that. Shit, not even 50. Honestly,
don't feel bad for the head coaches that lose their job. Feel bad for the staff members that are making $50,000, $60,000 that don't have millions and tens of millions in the bank. Say maybe even $100 million in the bank. I don't feel sorry for them. I feel sorry for like the low members on the staff.
Yeah, that's a great point. That is a very good point there, as you were, once one of those staffers. Folks, before we jump into it, I want to let you know that the College Football Experience is part of the Sports Gambling Podcast Network, and make sure you tune into the NFL Draft live show for the watch party for the entire round one of the NFL Draft, which is 2 days away, in case you're wondering when we're recording this. But all your favorite hosts, myself, Mac, everybody else, tune in this Thursday, 8 p.m. Eastern, youtube.com/the Sports Gambling Podcast. That's once again, youtube.com/the Sports Gambling Podcast. And remember, as always, folks, to let it ride. All right. I'm just going to go. And if you follow the format, make sure you go check out last night's episode. We talked about all the coaches heading into year 2 and what we thought about the fate of the program, or which direction the program's heading in, and how, which coach is disappointed in year 1. We've been releasing just a slew of episodes over the past 2 weeks. Go catch up with all of those. We have a Bronco Mendenhall to Utah State, Jason Eck to New Mexico. We have just a ton of stuff over there. Eddie George to Bowling Green. Go check out all of those episodes. But this one, if you didn't catch last night's, we start with the Big Ten, because in my eyes, Big Ten won the national championship a year ago. And I thought, and I wouldn't have said this coming into the year, I thought it was the best football conference a year ago. And I think I feel pretty accurate with saying that, even though coming into the year, I would have not said that. Just the certain teams rose up to me that, like Indiana, like Illinois. And then you mix that in with Michigan and getting better towards the end of the year, Ohio State and Oregon, all these teams, even USC, going 2-0 against the SEC there. It just, to me, it was the best conference. So we are going to start there, and we'll start with one that honestly I'm kind of fascinated that he's still employed there. I mean, let's go to College Park, Maryland. Mike Locksley is 33-41 as the head coach of the Maryland Terrapins. Some say he's not even on the hot seat. This is what's great is this is a hypothetical. They did just switch athletic directors, though. And that makes me think that he really will be on the hot seat. Because one thing I do know about this sport, being friends with a few athletic directors, they want their guy. They like their guy. So a new athletic director coming into College Park makes me think, if it was just me and I'd sit down and say, we're 33-41. Yet we've produced, the coach is 33-41 in his tenure there at College Park. And, well, we produce a decent amount of pros, which is pretty confusing. And then you probably look elsewhere. You probably look over at Indiana making the playoffs a year ago, which we'll talk about more. And I'm sure a lot of in the Big Ten portion of this episode. But they get their ass whooped, but they almost never beat a good team. That's the thing that I find really just incredible. Like, if you look at Locksley's, what he's done in College Park in these big games, they get their ass whooped almost every time by anyone with the pulse in the Big Ten, which is fascinating. They did beat USC, which counted as a Big Ten win a year ago, and that one might be good enough to save him another year, just because USC historically has been a very good program. But I'm curious on like a 1 to 10 scale, where you would say the seat should be hot. Where do you think it actually is? And will he be coaching a year from now when we're doing our next episode? What do you think, Mac?
I think it should be an 8.5, maybe. I think it's probably around 7. He's never had a winning season in the Big Ten from a Big Ten record standpoint. But Colby, I look at their schedule. I know they got some challenging spots. They only have 4 true road games. The Michigan State game being on a neutral type deal at Ford Field. So something tells me Locksley does just enough to stay another year again.
I mean, you're probably right, because they just made a basketball hire too with Buzz Williams. So a lot of times, if you're spending this much money, you kind of want to divide it up between years. But man, you're telling me this guy, who, by the way, his career record as a head coach, remember he was at New Mexico, is 35-67 all time.
Good.
I mean, and I get it. He had 2 8-win seasons at Maryland, right? 2 8-win seasons at Maryland, which is actually something I guess you can actually say. But when you dive into those, and they never beat anyone good. They rarely beat anybody. A lot of times your average loss to like an 8-win team or above is by like 30 fucking points.
Is USC his best win?
I think it might be. I think it might be. Like, I'm trying to think where. I mean, and that's what's crazy is you just look. Even last year, 27-point loss to Northwestern, 25-point loss to Minnesota, double-digit losses to Rutgers and Indiana. USC might be the best win. I'm just sitting here trying to.
I think it is.
I mean, he got Auburn in a bowl game, but they didn't have their coach, I believe. So maybe just because it's Auburn. He did beat Nebraska 2 years ago, 13-10, of course. But I think USC is the best win. And so maybe, and that was last year. So maybe that is the best win of his whole entire career there. Yeah. I mean, I personally, you're probably right because of the changing landscape of college football and just college athletics. With them hiring Buzz Williams and breaking the bank to get him, maybe they wait a year. But man, I can't help but think why would you do that? You know what I mean? Like I've never understood. I know Bobby Ross had it rolling in the 80s and Ralph Friedman at one point. I just don't understand why Maryland's not fucking awesome at football, especially in this time and era where the Redskin fan base is divided. It's why I've been lobbying for George Mason to start their football program. It's just an area that I feel like if you bought in all the way, we know how good their basketball fans have been. What's stopping it? Like, you have so much talent around you. Caleb Williams was right down the road from you in DC growing up. There's so many great talent in that area, and they just piss it away. I feel like. What is that? Why do you think it is?
You know what's ironic is they've actually recruited pretty well at the skill position. They've just been really bad. I thought in the trenches. I don't know. It maybe because more of the talent is navigating towards the South, but there's still some dudes in the DMV. There's still enough.
And you have money.
Yeah,
you have money. You have Under Armour money too. Like,
they should be better than 33 and 41. That's like, I'm not saying that. What we talked about with Indiana last night that expect to be in tier 2, I think they could be in tier 2 if they got the right guy there. I mean, we saw the Fridge. The Fridge was awesome there for a while, and then whatever, they butted heads at him in administration, and then all hell broke loose, and they haven't been
doing since.
Yeah,
he had him in an Orange Bowl. He had him in a fucking Orange Bowl. And I can't help but think, I believe it wasn't Locksley. I think it was Durkin. They hired over Leach. Leach interviewed at Maryland.
That's not a very good decision.
Yeah. I mean, this has been happening, or it might have been Edsel. It might have been Edsel over Leach because Leach took the Washington State job eventually. But either way,
No,
he was at UConn twice. Yeah. Anyway, I think it's a pivotal year. I'm going to just disagree with you. I think they're going to get their ass whooped this year. When the more I think about it, Billy Edwards is gone. I think he gets fired this year because I think even though they just fired Buzz,
they're going to go 6-6.
That would keep his job. They have to have a losing season for me to hit this, but I'm going to say he's fired at the end of the year. Next up, and I'm going alphabetically, but Matt Rhule. This is an interesting one to me because I don't know that he's actually on the hot seat because they just went bowling for the first time in forever. But I also know their fan base is kind of, they've had so much great times in my lifetime, but not recently. So like in a way, I think they'd be split on this. They'd be some saying, hey, what, he's building this thing. And I tend to think he is. But when you look at 12-13,
yeah,
it's a little bit of a, and then you wonder what happens if he does go
5-7.
Yeah, like if they goes 5-7, because it's a really friendly schedule this year too. They might fire him because Nebraska's Nebraska. They have national championships, lots of them. You got to think like it's possible, as much as I think it's going to work out there. But if he goes 5-7, remember they have a new athletic director too. Trev Alberts hired Matt Rhule. He left.
Mm-hmm.
He's at A&M now. I think it's possible that you could see Matt Rhule fired if they go 4-8, 5-7. Do I think it's going to happen? No, I don't. I think he's back next year, and if anything, I actually think they have a decent year. Now, I am a little concerned about the Dylan Raiola talk, and I need to know if that's actually accurate, that he came in out of shape and stuff. But if that's accurate, that is a little scary. But
they got a great schedule, by the way.
I know that's why I'm bullish on them, dude.
They should go to playoff with the schedule.
I think they could. You know what's crazy, man? I was on VSiN the other night talking college football futures, and I said this could be Indiana of this year. Yeah. Nebraska's schedule aligns up perfectly, and Raiola stepping into his sophomore season with the way he has, the way he does. Say what you want about the kid, he's got just raw talent that you don't see in everyday quarterbacks. So if he takes a step forward, remember Dana Holgerson's the OC. They hired him like in late October, early November. Random. So this is Well, Satterfield was a bad OC hire in the beginning for Rhule, but I tend to think that Holgerson could have them playing better on offense, and then Rhule handles the defensive side of things. It could be. I think he's fine, but it's possible just because of the fan base.
Yeah, they're losing season away from him being at the top of the hot seat headed into next year. I don't think there's any way he gets fired unless they go like 3-9. Now, I will say this is Matt Rhule year 3. It's been a good trend. Temple 10 wins, Baylor 11 wins, and what does Matt Rhule do? He beats average and below average teams, and that schedule's great. They don't play a true road game until October 11th, and that's at Maryland. I mean, this is a fucking great schedule.
I'm telling you. No, they're this year's Indiana. Yeah.
This is a great schedule. The more and more I look at, I mean, what's their hardest road game? All right, Penn State. They're going to lose that game. But other than that, at the other 3 road games, at UCLA, at Minnesota, at Maryland.
And I'll even say this, at Penn State, when they play Penn State, they get a bye week before it. And by that point, it could be like an Indiana story of a team sitting there at 8. Yeah, that's what I'm saying. And then it's possible. But yeah, I do think it's possible that they fire him though. If he goes 5-7 with this schedule with a new athletic director, I could see it fucking happening, especially if Raiola transfers, because they threw a bunch of money at him. If Raiola transfers, that's a blueprint for it. 5-7 Raiola transfers for a firing.
They just and they get Michigan early. Underwood early in his career. I mean, in Memorial Stadium there in Lincoln, Nebraska. And Scott Frost almost beat them with Harbaugh, like the first playoff Michigan team. So yeah, Nebraska fans, you should be excited with the schedule.
Yeah, Matt Dix, they did make a bowl last season, but that they were way under their win total. So it was a disappointing year a year ago.
I mean, they should be in a bowl game every year. It honestly was a joke that they had that longest streak.
And they needed to like win, I think, the final game of the season. Like they needed something. And then I don't even know they would have won the bowl game had BC not had their, BC had a bunch of guys out. I mean, I know Nebraska had some guys out too, but BC had more. So that you could look at it and say, man, they were kind of lucky to be 7-6 last year.
Yeah, that was at Yankee Stadium or Fenway. I forget which one.
Yeah. I think Rhule's safe too, but it's just there's a couple in here that you say the wheels really have to fall off for this year. But I will say, if they go 4-8, I do think he'll be fired. They go 4-8 with that schedule, I think he'll be fired.
4-8 with that schedule is equivalent to 2-10. In my opinion, that schedule's a joke compared to other teams.
Agreed. Next up in the Big Ten. Oh, I gotta mention it. I gotta fucking mention it.
You lose to Michigan, you're fired, Ryan.
I mean, I have to mention it. I don't know that he's really on the hot seat, but I think sort of. I asked a buddy this, and I go, "What if I know you're off of a national championship, and he's 70-10 as a head coach?" And I'm referring to Ryan Day. But they have to play in Ann Arbor, the final game of the season. What if he loses to Michigan yet again? You got to tell me, dude, how many would that be in a row? Would that be 5 in a row?
4.
Are you sure it's not 4 right now? Am I gotta just make sure on this.
Wait, no, this would be 5. Well, wait, it started at Michigan. Because it was a snow game. I remember that. Then they won the 2-3 game back and forth where Michigan broke off the 2 big runs. And then Harbaugh's last year, he was suspended. And then Tron Moore beat him again. Yeah, that would be 5 in a row, actually.
That's what I'm saying. That's the current streak's at 4. Dude, there's no way, right? There's no way, right?
No. He gets at least 2 more years. When you win it, although I will say Gene Chizik did get fired less than 2
John
years.
Cooper, Ohio State. John Cooper was a great coach for them. He just couldn't beat Michigan. They ended up firing him.
Did he win a Natty the year before?
No, he didn't.
Yeah, I mean, goddamn, Ohio State fans, chill out. I know you want to be. Michigan. They might.
I almost want it to happen so bad. Like I want it to happen so bad just from the drama being like, fuck Ryan Day. And it's like, dude, you're coming off a national championship. He's 70 and by this point he'll be like 78-12 or something. You know what I mean? Or 79-12. Yeah. And you're going to say you want him fired.
Yeah. They'll lose to Michigan. Well, the look ahead line, like to put in perspective, it's not like the craziest thing in the world for them to lose Michigan again. The line is 5.5 in the summer line. I know a lot of games are to be played, but like it wouldn't be the craziest thing in the world to lose in Ann Arbor. They have their number right now. It's a bad match.
I almost feel like I would have to take Michigan now. But I mean, he's back next year, right?
Yeah.
This time next year, he's back, right?
He may leave on his own if he loses to Michigan again. I can't take this shit. I already won him at
That's actually compelling. Think about this. Let's say Florida or LSU opens up or USC opens up. Does he just get the fuck out of there then if he loses a 5th time to Michigan and just say, you know what? You guys I'm getting death threats again. Let me go to fucking Los Angeles. Let me go to Gainesville and enjoy whoever you got next because I'm 80-12. He
might be better than that because if he goes 10-2, he's going to be in the playoff again. And then he'll have his team refocus. They'll probably get a home game. They'll win that. They'll probably get to the semis again. And maybe they'll win again.
Yeah, it's possible. I mean, it's Ohio State. Yeah, I think he's back too. So I'm at 1 firing, 2 returning.
Yeah.
Out of those 3, who seats the hottest?
Locksley by a mile.
Yeah, Okay.
Although it's tempting.
Because I was like, do they care enough? It might be Rhule or Day.
It might be Day.
Oh, man. Next up in the Big Ten. Oh, my God. This guy, James Franklin. What are we talking about? He's 101 and 42. He's 101 and 42. How could he be on the hot seat? Well, he's only beaten Ohio State one time, and he has a terrible record against top 25 teams. So they're going all in. They're throwing a boatload of money. They're pulling an Ohio State / Michigan, bringing back all these, players that could go to the NFL, but they're paying them to stay. This is the year. This is the year. They even went light on the non-con. Check it out. This is the year they win the national championship, just like Ohio State and Michigan. The boosters have put their money in. Could James Franklin really be on the hot seat if they don't go to the fucking playoffs?
Oof. Yeah, I mean, his seat, I don't know if he could get fired unless they go like 7-5. But I mean,
I think if he misses the playoffs, it will be a conversation.
I
think if you lose to Oregon on the September 27th, you lose at Kinnick on the 18th.
Yeah.
You lose at Ohio State.
Yep.
That'll probably write you out of the playoffs.
This schedule's tricky.
They would be super pissed. They would be
Rutgers
super pissed.
is not a gimme either. At Rutgers is never a gimme either. I mean,
that's true. They should fuck them up, but you do wonder if they're already kind of out of the playoffs. A lot of these guys they brought back going to the NFL, how much do they get up for a game at Rutgers? A sleepy game against 5 and 6 Rutgers to end the season. Now, I will say this. I will use the same thing to apply the Ryan Day situation. Franklin's been taking a lot of heat. USC, Florida, LSU, some of these other big schools, Oklahoma, these schools could come calling.
Mm-hmm.
And maybe you just say, this isn't worth it. I'm 101 and 42. Let me get the fuck out of here.
Yeah.
What do you think?
Well, I absolutely. And I know people will say we're crazy for saying he can lose to anybody not named Ohio State and Michigan, but he's done it. I mean, they've lost that crazy game to Illinois. Last year, they should have lost at Minnesota. I mean, like they were a hair wins in that goddamn game.
They've lost at Iowa before. They've lost at Iowa under Franklin. Yeah, so
they almost lost at USC. I mean, they were down.
They should have lost to USC, dude. Yeah. USC was.
So to your point, like they usually find a way to escape those games. But yeah, if he misses the playoff, I think that seat is red hot, and he may bolt on his own. But I think you and I agree. I think they're going to be pretty damn good. I think. Yeah,
you look at that schedule, and you're like, I understand there's some landmines there, Oregon, at Iowa, at Ohio State, but I'm like, they get a bye week before Oregon and Ohio State.
Yeah.
Okay. I mean, I know Ohio State that just is in their fucking head. Because I mean, I can't tell you how many times I've seen James Franklin with a fourth quarter lead lose to Ohio State. It's probably 5-6 times. So that one is a big psychological one where it will be a big test. But I mean, I just think if they go 1-2 in those, they should be in for the playoffs. And then when you're in the playoffs,
yeah,
I don't know how you fire them.
Yeah.
If you're in the playoffs, yeah.
I mean, they do have, like I said, they do have a couple tricky spots, like the Nebraska game at home, Indiana at home. Yeah, they should win those games. They're way better. But to my point, they've played around with their food in a couple of those games over the years.
Yeah. Folks, we're going to talk more Big Ten coaching. But before I do that, I want to let you know the college football experience is brought to you by Edge Boost. You ever had your deposit blocked by your bank right before a big bet? Yep. Ever needed cash at 2 a.m. for another shot at the tables, but your ATM limit, you hit your ATM limit? Well, you don't need to worry about this shit anymore because Edge Boost is out there and they have your back. And Edge Boost is the first ever bank account built for bettors. Edge Boost gives you fast, reliable access to your funds, making it easier to move money when and wherever you need it without the delays that come with traditional banks. And let me tell you, for you high rollers out there, you can move up to $250,000 a day on your Edge Boost Visa debit card with unlimited withdrawals. It works 24/7 for instant deposits. Never, ever wait for a wire transfer ever again. And it gets better every time you deposit into a qualified gambling account. You get 5% back in rewards. Edge Boost is great. There's no credit checks. There's no minimum balance. There's no usage fees. Simply verify your identity and boom, you're ready to go. So hop on over to www.edgeboost.bet, promo code SGPN. Once again, that's www.edgeboost.bet, promo code SGPN over at Edge Boost. We're also brought to you by mybookie.ag. Yes, MyBookie is your place to bet on every single sport, including the NBA, NHL playoffs, NFL draft props, UFL action. Plus, there's props for every game. And for the true degens, the MyBookie money bag is a bundle of fun. And look, MyBookie accepts customers from a ton of different locations, and you can easily deposit, get lightning fast payouts using crypto. So head on over to mybookie.ag. But when you do, use our promo code TCESGPN for 100% deposit match up to $1,000. Terms and conditions do apply. Once again, that's mybookie.ag, promo code TCESGPN. All right, we are back talking just ridiculous. I turned into this hot seat episode. They talked Matt Rhule, Ryan Day, and James Franklin. This guy's just it's possible. Frank, let me ask you this. Gun to your head, those three. What would be the most likely of the three to get fired? Franklin. I think it's Franklin. I think it's Franklin too.
And let me go on record. I think it'd be ridiculous if they fired him. I think he's done a heck of a job there. Hey, he just can't beat Ohio State. Yeah, they said the same shit about Jim Harbaugh once upon a time too, and then he got over the hump, and then they won a natty. So I don't want to be the Penn State fans when you watch this. Don't be saying you guys are crazy. I don't think they should fire him, but we know how crazy fan bases and donors are in this day and age, where you pay for the roster.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, just let them lose those three key games. Oregon at home.
Yeah.
At Iowa, which I feel like is very likely. And then at Ohio State. I go 9-3, but you lose all three of those big games. There's no Michigan on the schedule. He'll be feeling some fucking heat. He will be feeling some fucking heat. Next up, let's jump over to Los Angeles. Lincoln Riley. 26-14 was damn close to making the playoffs before Caleb Williams and the Trojans lost to Utah in Vegas in a wild one. But it's been downhill since then. 26-14. Rob Ryan is on the staff now. Love that.
Yeah.
Love that was rad. I didn't see that one coming. Now, the seat is really fucking hot. The problem is, I do believe he has an $88 million buyout. Now, USC has fuck you money. We know this. But also, if you're paying players $20 million, it's getting steep. You might be stuck with Lincoln Riley. This is the interesting one. I actually think out of all the coaches, including Locksley, I think Riley's seat is the hottest. But the contract might fucking save him. I think that if he goes 7-5, the contract might be the thing that saves him. But I think if you want a fan base that does, like Maryland, the fans don't care enough right now. They haven't for a while. USC fans, they are not happy with Lincoln Riley. And I think they're not happy for a bunch of different reasons. This is an interesting one, but I also think this contract, if you're telling me Dundee, will he be back next year? Tend to think he will, just because that money is so big. Now, A&M ended up ponying up the cash with Jimbo, and I'm sure it goes down from 88. That was this. I think that was the number from this past year. I think it goes down. I mean, obviously it will go down, but still a shit ton of money. Yeah, you think he's back? You think he's back next year?
I actually think that they're going to be better than people think. They profile as a team that lost a shitload of close games, and I think he's still a good coach. I know that they've regressed here every year, 11 wins and 8 wins and 7 wins, but I thought he was really good at Oklahoma for his couple years there, and I think that they got a good quarterback. So I think he will find a way to right the ship here. But that seat, if they don't win, he's probably got to win 9 games, doesn't he?
I mean, Maybe if it's 8 and I mean, first off, the schedule's not as hard as a year ago. Last year's schedule was a lot harder. But you still have at Illinois, who was a win away from making the playoffs. Really, like they were in the mix. You still have home to Michigan, at Notre Dame, at Nebraska if Rhule does turn that corner, at Oregon. At Oregon, I mean, I won't even put it past them in a game against Iowa. I mean, or it's just
if he goes 9-3, he should not be fired with that schedule. Because I mean, those are 3 hard ass or 2 really hard road games at Notre Dame and at Oregon.
I think Illinois is going to be a top 15 team this year, so that's 3 really tough road games there.
Yeah, and at Nebraska. I mean, if you think Nebraska is going to be better, then yeah, I think if he goes 9-3, he's back. 8-4, it gets a little dicey. He probably is back for another year, but if he throws up another 7-5, I think he's gone.
I think even if he does a 7-5, they might give him 1 more year, just because the money is so big.
Yeah.
The money is so big. And I bet you a good amount of those donors lived in the Palisades and shit. You know what I mean? Where they just burnt down. It might be harder to come up with a buck. Although USC has just endless money. I'm sure they'll just call Spielberg.
Call Nico.
Yeah. I'm going to say he's back next year. So I only have 1 firing thus far. Gun to your head. Is he the head coach of USC next year at this time?
Yeah, I think he saves his job. So I don't have any firings.
Yeah, well, I got one right here. We're going to Madison, Wisconsin. Luke Fickell, 13-13 in his tenure in Madison. Now, here's the question I would ask you. Do you give him the Derry Raid shit is done? Phil Longo was fired. He's actually now the head. Ironically, he might have failed upwards because he's the head coach at Sam Houston State in the Conference USA. So he got fired though. Then he got hired as a head coach. But why I find this one interesting is because I do believe they have the hardest schedule in the Big Ten.
Yeah.
So if you're Barry Alvarez, the athletic director there at Wisconsin, I believe he's still the AD. Do you just know that this year's going to be tough? You bring him back for that 4th year. I don't know, but I can tell you this. You look at that schedule, at Alabama, at Michigan. Look, how about this 4-game stretch? I'll even say, good God.
Yeah, they're going to be dogs in at least 6 games.
Dude, look at this 7-game stretch right here. At Michigan, home to Iowa, which Iowa's had their number lately. Home to Ohio State. At Oregon. Now, they do get a bye week, but then they're home to Washington, who I do think is going in the right direction. Then at Indiana, and then home to Illinois. I mean, you can make a case. You can legit make a case that this team will be 3-9.
Yeah. I mean, what are the gimme wins? Miami of Ohio and Middle Tennessee at home.
Miami of Ohio fucking went to the MAC championship, didn't they? I mean, they beat Cincinnati a year ago. Like,
yeah, Fickell wasn't coach of that team. That was Satterfield.
Yeah, dude, I think Miami, Ohio, and Middle Tennessee and Maryland are the 3 you circle. But it's not like, I mean, I don't know. Would you have them favored in any other game? Maybe Washington on November 8th, but
at home and then at Minnesota would be what, a pick 'em like it
I
always
think
is.
Washington's a better football team than Wisconsin. Now it isn't in Madison.
In Madison though. Yeah. I mean, Illinois at home, that's probably a pick 'em. Probably like
But that's a personal ass game for Bielema.
I know. Yeah, and last time they beat the hell out of them,
dude.
Up there.
And Illinois returns everybody. That's why I think I don't know. How
do you bring him back if you go 5-7 again?
Well, that's the thing. It is a hard schedule coming into it, though. So you kind of got to say, like, what are your expectations heading into this year? But
you should at least make a bowl of Wisconsin. If he misses back-to-back years of bowl, he's got to be gone.
I think he's fired. I think he's gone. I think, you know, the fans they haven't had a basketball change like Maryland. They have the resources, I think, where they can just say, let's move on.
I'm with Matt Dix in the chat. I don't even know if Maryland's an automatic win for Wisconsin.
It's not.
Like,
I mean,
Maryland will have just as good of athletes, if not better, It's just that Wisconsin at home should beat Maryland. But yeah, I think that I don't. This reminds me of last year, looking at the schedule, going, God, where do you find the wins?
I even think this is harder. Like when I look at the schedule, I'm like, to me, like I actually believe if you're just basing it off talent. Now, Camp Randall can steal you wins because it's a great atmosphere, jump around and everything. But
yeah,
when I look at this, I'm like, I believe they are less talented than every team on the schedule not named Miami, Ohio, Middle Tennessee. I actually think Maryland might actually have more actual talent.
Mm-hmm.
But it's Mike Locksley, and Fickell, I think, does have an advantage there. So I think he's fired. I'm going to say this is the second firing. This job opens up. How about you?
I think they miss a bowl game again. I think he's gone. And another reason I think that because they care about football, unlike Maryland. So,
yes.
Yeah.
And by the way, if this does happen, if this does happen, I want people to dig back into our episodes a couple of years ago when they hired him. I said everyone loved it. I was like, I think this is not going to work out. I called this shit. Now maybe I eat crow on this, and Fickell has a great year, and but I called this. So I feel like I was I was in the minority of saying I don't like the hire. I don't think it makes a lot of sense. We'll see. We'll see if this works out. But if so, I keep those receipts. All right.
Hey, stay tuned when we get to the Big 12. He may be coaching a Big 12, a familiar foe, because we see the Big 12 as the reunion league. Could Fickell be headed back to the Big 12 next year? Maybe.
Yeah. That's a good point. I mean, that's another thing is you would think if that opened up, why wouldn't they consider that? Right.
You got to do a playoff. I mean, I know it was a different league and they had the best program by far in the American, but still, I mean, he got him there to the playoff.
Yeah, agreed. All right, let's jump over. We are officially done with the Big Ten hot seat. We are now jumping over to the SEC, where Kalen DeBoer. What are you talking about, Dundee?
Oh, his seat's hot. I don't care what anybody says.
Well, they're 9-4 a year ago. They just hired him. He was coaching in the national championship 2 years ago. Yeah, okay, but let me tell you something here. Alabama fans are unrealistic. Obviously, Nick Saban, but even much longer than that. Gene Stallings, Bear Bryant. You can go on and on. This is something where I feel like 9-4. If you watch or seen the clips from Feinbaum this past year, they were fucking calling for his head with bad losses to Vanderbilt, blown out by a bad Oklahoma team, losing to the B team of Michigan. There's heat. I tend to think like, okay, they got to give him 3 years, right? I can tell you this though. You look at the schedule. They're at Florida State to start the season. Now, I think Alabama should win that game, but if you lost to Vanderbilt and Oklahoma last year, why the fuck would they? You can't just pencil this one as a lock. They also play at Georgia, and they beat Georgia a year ago. They also play at Missouri, who I think will be another bowl team. They also play at South Carolina, who looked pretty damn good a year ago. South Carolina probably should have beat them in Tuscaloosa. And then they play at Auburn in the Iron Bowl, which tends to always be a tricky one when they're at Jordan Hare, but also home games against LSU, Oklahoma, Tennessee, Diego Pissing Pavia and Vanderbilt, and Luke Fickell in Wisconsin. It's a challenging schedule. I think he's going to do a lot like he did this past year. I think they'll be 9-3 in the regular season, maybe 8-4. I think 8-4 is more likely than 10-2 with that schedule. What would that get him fired? I tend to think they'll be given that third year, but it's possible.
I don't think he gets fired if he's around that 9-3. The AD at Alabama is not that kind of guy either. I know Alabama is a crazy ass fan base, and they were spoiled by Saban. I mean, he never had a 9-3 year except for year number 1 back in 2007. But I think if he goes 9-3, he gets another year. Now, if he gets close to that 7-5, 6-6 disaster year, they somehow lose at Florida State week 1, and then they lose at Georgia, at Missouri, they lose at Tennessee, at South Carolina, then of course they lose at Auburn because they always seem to have fits down there. Then I could see him getting canned. I mean, then
what about 8-4 regular season? You think he's canned? Because like I could easily draw this up. Like, let's say they lose at Florida State, at Georgia, or just honestly, like between those road games, at Florida State, at Georgia, at Mizzou, at South Carolina, at Auburn. Let's say they lose 4 of the 5.
If they go 8-4, he's gonna almost wish he got fired because that offseason living in Tuscaloosa headed into year 3 is gonna make
you gotta get a fucking beach house away.
He's not gonna want to be back there and living in that place if they go 8-4 this year and they go down from what they were in year 1. I mean, they're already on suicide watch at fan base after a 9-3. If they go 8-4 after that, they're gonna want to jump. I think he's back. I do. I don't think they're gonna can him after 2 years, but this is an intriguing one because I think he's a good coach too.
I do too. I just think I was surprised he took the gig. We talked about this yesterday on the show. Shout out to Jeff Sharp saying Bama doesn't have the NIL money like they used to. So, I mean, it's still Bama though. They built this crazy expectation, and it's not only Saban, it's historically.
No. They have the same NIL money. Everybody else has got NIL money too.
Yeah. Yeah. It's a good point. Good point there. I tend to think he's back. I think they'll give him a 3rd year, but honestly, like I said, I believe 8-4 is much more of a reality than 10-2 to me. I think you look at that schedule. I mean, I'm kind of high on that's a hard schedule. Like, where's the for sure win? Vandy beat their ass last year.
Bobby is still there.
Bobby is there. Eli Stauer is still there. You know, Jerry Kill's still there on that staff with Beck. I mean, you would think they would beat Vanderbilt, but I don't know. Vandy's going to be a bowl team again to me. I think they're going to be a bowl team. So
this is an interesting schedule. Like, I could very well see 8-4. I think 9-3, but early glance at it, I haven't dove into the rosters as much as I will 2 months from now when we do the preview by each team. But early glance, 8-4, 9-3, very possible.
Do I sound crazy? Because I think it's more likely than 10-2 with that schedule, with 5 road games and all the 5 of those environments are pretty lit.
Georgia,
they
win it in Athens? No way.
Yeah.
Especially after they beat Georgia at home last year, and Georgia. I mean, Kirby's going to have those guys ready to run through a wall, and they'll probably drop another road game at least, maybe 2.
Yeah. I'm going to say he's back though. Let's jump to the next one. Sam Pulled Pork Pitman, my boy, with Bobby Petrino, aka Road Rash Face, calling the offense. You know I love it. Pulled Pork Pitman is 30-31. I think a lot of the reason, back to our Maryland conversation, that he didn't get fired this past year was he had a big win against Tennessee where they stormed the field, but also they hired John Calipari. So I thought they had said, hey, let's give him another year. Get our money in order. 30-31. I'm personally a big fan of Sam Pittman. I think he's a great guy. And I think he's actually like not a bad coach, but I also know the history of Arkansas football. I also know that they've been, ever since they entered the SEC, they really haven't been a factor for the most part, with the exception of a couple of years there with Houston Nutt. But I'd still think they should be better. Like, I don't understand when you're the only school in the fucking state playing FBS football. I don't, and now you have the great equalizer and NIL. I don't understand why you're not better. You go back, Jerry Jones is a fucking alum. You know what I mean? Jimmy Johnson's an alum. Like, they should have some money going through here. Tyson chicken money. But I'm going to say this. There ain't a way he survives this, in my opinion. Like, he has to. What is that magic number? What is that magic number for him? Like, where they just could not tell their fan base they fire him.
If he goes 9-3, I think then you go, all right, like that with that schedule. Because oh my god, is there a harder schedule in the country than this?
It's a really hard schedule, and the non-con. So Arkansas and Arkansas State have never played because it was in their legislation. Butch Jones there at Arkansas State. They're finally playing this year. They're also hosting Notre Dame in the Lou Holtz Bowl, and then they're at Memphis. I mean, those are 3 chippy non-con games that I feel like should be a bundle of fun for us to watch. I don't know if I'd want to have that on my schedule, but then you look at the conference schedule at LSU and at Texas, back-to-back away, fucking brutal. At Ole Miss, at Tennessee, brutal. Home games against A&M, Auburn, Mizzou in a rivalry game. Yeah, there. I think you can call the moving company.
Petrino will be coaching at the end of the year.
Oh, that's the one thing I would want out of this. They were chanting his name at the basketball game when they hired him. Yeah. I don't wish specifically in this one. I like Sam Pittman. I would love to see him go 9-3 and just shut us all up. But if you're asking me to bet, which I love to do, I'm going to bet that he is no longer the head coach of Arkansas 1 year from now.
Yeah, I like him too, man. He's only won 9 games once, so they lose at Ole Miss. If they lose at Memphis and they lose to Notre Dame at home, let's say they kind of get handled. I think he's fired at that bye week headed into Tennessee. I think he's the first head coach fired, to be honest. The more and more, this schedule's ridiculous. At Ole Miss, at Memphis, Notre Dame, at Tennessee, then A&M. Oh my God! And then at LSU and at Texas.
Yeah, he's probably the first coach fired. Now you called for Fickell to be fired, so this will be your second one. This will be my third coach that is canned. As I have Sam Pittman in Arkansas. Do they hire Bobby Petrino? Is he their future coach?
2, 4, 6. So what if Petrino goes 5-2 down the stretch?
He's
and
hired.
They win.
The fans won it. The fans won
at
it.
LSU.
Yeah.
Like they did once upon a time in 2007
with McFadden, with Houston Nutt. Yeah. I wish you the best, Sam. I hope I'm wrong, but yeah. Next up, Hugh strip club freeze. The man who once coached a game from the hospital, meaning a hospital bed that was wheeled into the the top of Williams Stadium there in Lynchburg, Virginia. He's 11-14. Let me tell you something. I will guarantee you he will be fired if he does not just have a good season. Like Auburn is ridiculous. They fired coaches right after national championships. They created a scandal to get Brian Harsin out of town, even though it wasn't even accurate. I feel like now here's what's tricky.
Awesome, by the way, when they lose. Harsin, when he trolls Auburn every time they lose. Yeah. Oh, it's a great day over here. How's it going?
There's some below the belt shit there. Created like saying he was cheating on his wife, wasn't even cheating on his wife. There's some making your personal life fucking hell for no reason just to try to get you out of a fucking contract or try to get you to leave. That's some dickhead shit. Now, strip club freeze. I am fascinated here. So Auburn is their win total is higher than I thought it would. I was surprised at it. I don't know. Like when I think of Hugh Freeze, I think he kind of got some of his rep from beating Saban twice. I don't know how good of a football coach he really is. Now, can he scheme up some offense and score points? Sure. But to have control of your whole team, I don't know if he's a great coach week in, week out. Like, is he great as a dog when historically? Sure. But I don't know, like based off of what I saw a year ago, and I know the wide receiver room, they're a year older. I just don't think they're that good. And when I look at the schedule, I see them at Baylor. Week 1, I'm like
Friday night in Waco.
I mean, I thought Baylor was a better team a year ago. They also have to go to Oklahoma, to A&M, home game against Georgia. Yeah, it's a back-to-back away. You're at Arkansas with Bobby Petrino potentially coaching. You're at Diego Pop, but Diego Pavi is 3-0 against Hugh Freeze. You're at Vanderbilt, and then you have Bama. I'm just going to go out and say this. I don't think he's the head. Now, I will say this. There is that stretch of Missouri at Arkansas, home to Kentucky, at Vanderbilt, home to Mercer. That's 5 wins right there that Auburn fans expect. They expect to beat all 5 of those teams. I think he's fired. I think some of these teams are going to get him.
I'll tell you what, man. We talked about how great Nebraska's schedule was because they didn't play a road game till October. They got 3 tough-ass road games before September 30th. Baylor, Oklahoma, and A&M. Oklahoma. How did they get back-to-back road in the SEC to start this league play?
In September, yeah.
Oh, God. Now, I will say, if he could survive that first month, then it does open up where he could get some momentum headed into year 4. But there's a world where he could be fired at the bye week, don't you think? If they're 2-3,
yeah,
headed into Georgia,
yeah. I mean, I don't know if they keep him just for the year, because it probably gives them their best chance of beating Bama.
Yeah,
but you got to think.
I mean, if you're an interim coach, you have like the dream scenario if you get this, get a chance to take this over, because that schedule in the back half is very favorable. But I don't know. I kind of think that they're going to go 7-5 because I think they're going to rally late. The 7-5 get them a 4th year?
Probably. But I don't know. This is another ridiculous fan base. I mean, what was it? What was I just want to pull this up. Like, this is
he gets another year because Saban's not in Tuscaloosa. That's my prediction.
But what if Alabama makes the playoffs?
Well, then they're back on suicide watch.
So Gene Chizik went 14-0, won the national championship in 2010.
He's gone a year and a half.
Followed that with an 8-5 season where you're like, okay, that's what happens. You lose your starting quarterback. Still a good season. Then, okay, everything went wrong. 3-9, fired. It's like, dude, you just won the natty for him. That's I think he's canned. I don't think he's back next year.
He beats Alabama Thanksgiving weekend, saves his job, gets his 4th year. That's my prediction.
That would save his job probably, by the way.
Yeah. They go 7-5, 8-4 with the Alabama win. It gets him another year.
All right. Next up, let's go to Billy Napier, 19-19 at the Swamp. How's that possible? You're at Florida. You win natties there. 19-19 is that record. Their schedule is really challenging. Now, I will say this: coming into last season, we thought that schedule was maybe the hardest we've ever seen in college football to a certain extent. I don't think it was as hard as what we thought it was going to be, because Florida State was fucking horrible. Also, Kentucky was terrible. Also, UCF was terrible. So like the schedule wasn't as hard as we thought it was going to be. However, Napier did a good job, I thought, last year. It's kind of considering, Graham Mertz out for the season. They go to Lagway. They figured some things out. But damn, if this is a big year here, 19-19 is your career record with the Gators. Now I'll say this: God damn, the road games at LSU, at Miami. I know no fans go to that, but it's still Miami, who whooped your ass a year ago. At Texas A&M, the neutral, world's biggest cocktail party there in Jacksonville against Georgia. Then at Kentucky and at Ole Miss. And then, there's home games against Texas, Tennessee, Florida State, Mississippi State.
What about week 1?
The fucking Long Island Sharks are coming to town with the fucking message.
I saw that. I go, oh shit! LIU's on the Florida schedule.
The fucking Sharks. You want to swim with the fucking Sharks, Gators?
This is a hard schedule, man.
I don't think he's gonna make it. Like I tend to think he turned a corner last year, but I think this year's schedule, I actually think you can make a case that this year's schedule, I think, is harder than last year's schedule. And if you want me to make that case, well, yes, Long Island's fucking terrible. So you have that on the schedule, but I tend to think that
South Florida's not bad.
Well, I think they'll be better this year than they were.
Yeah.
I think you have you're facing Brian Kelly in a make or break year with Nussmeier back. I think Elko in year 2 with A&M. You had A&M on the schedule last year. You also had Jeff Lebby and Mississippi State on the schedule last year. I think they're going to be better this year than last year. I expect Kentucky to be better this year than last year. So the only team, and Florida State will certainly be better this year than last year. So I think it's a harder schedule this year than last year.
Colby, I'm looking at those last 2 games and how big those are going to be, just because for the fan base too. I mean, Florida and Tennessee don't like each other. And then, of course, Florida and Florida State. I think he's got to get both of those. And I think that would get him. I mean, Ole Miss is going to be a revenge game for Ole Miss. I mean, Florida, that game kept Ole Miss out of the playoff.
Yeah.
Kentucky's always a tricky spot.
Kentucky, because Stoops has it out for them. Like historically, since Stoops has been there, he calls it like the Cino. I mean, it's not the Cino game. He calls it something though of like it's a big game for the boosters. I know that. Yeah. So, but I'm just he's gone.
That stretch early on at LSU, at Miami, and then Texas, and at A&M. That feels like the schedule we just previewed with Auburn. I mean, or Arkansas. It's just brutal. 3 out of 4 on the road in tough atmospheres. And then the one game at home is Texas. Maybe the favorite to win the SEC again. Does Florida, like, I know this is crazy to say, does Florida care as much as they used to?
Oh, I think they still do. Now, they don't have the resources from what some say NIL wise, but I see, and by the way, I see a lot of people saying in the chat, Matt Dick saying Florida 9-3, Jeff Sharp, shout out to Sharp, DJ Lagway at the QB spot. I just think they could win at Miami. It's possible. Sure. Miami's no fucking Cristobal is not a great coach to me, but I just think even if they got Miami, I'll put it like this. These are the losses I would say I feel decent about. At LSU, I think is a loss.
It's Death Valley. Yeah.
Home to Texas, I think is probably a loss. At A&M, I think is a loss. Georgia, I think is a loss.
And Ole Miss.
Ole Miss is a loss. I mean, I don't. If he goes 7-5, I think they can. They have a new athletic director too. So, or I think they're going to be having. Did he hire Napier? He did actually. I think
he hired Napier.
He did. Okay.
Napier feels like
a new president. That's what it is. Yeah. They have a new president.
You know what? I'm with you. I think Napier's gone after this year. Napier survived last year, and Lagway's banged up. I know a lot of people are hyping. I know that he's supposedly thrown again, but I need to see it. I think Florida. I think Florida goes in a different direction. Golden won a national championship. That puts even more pressure on him this year.
Yeah. I think he's gone. I think he goes like 6-6. And I think that's not cutting it there.
It's even a bad year with that schedule, but it's Florida to your point.
Yeah. Next up, let's go to Brian Kelly and his family. Look, I mean, it's exciting times. Like Brian Kelly, this was another one that I was.
Thank you. Well, this is a great way to get started, and I haven't even won all my games yet. It's a great night to be a Tiger. I'm here with my family.
It hasn't even won all of his games yet. He thought he was going to go undefeated. This one, I don't feel like the shoe ever fit. You get this guy from the Northeast or from Midwest/Northeast. All of his coaching, it's like LSU hired him. I was like, wow, I didn't see that one coming. And then when he has the fake accent and those videos where he's doing the gun, it just felt like it's never fit there. And they fired Ed Orgeron, 2 years after a natty as well, by the way. 19-11, and you had a Heisman Trophy. Look at Jaden Daniels with the Redskins. He's killing it. This has got to be the year to me. And when you look at the schedule, it starts off at Clemson, who I think will be a playoff team this year. That's not good for business. Then you're You have a home game against Florida later. You're at Ole Miss. You're home to South Carolina, at Vandy, home to A&M, at Bama, home to Arkansas, which they might be with Petrino at that point, and then at Oklahoma. That's the only good thing I'll say. The back half of the season, there's a strong chance that Oklahoma and Arkansas are with interim head coaches. I mean, it's crazy. You could be in a spot where you would play 3 interim head coaches. I doubt it, but I'm going to say he makes it. I'm going to say he makes it for one more year. Now, what would that number be? I don't know. If he goes 8-4,
he's got to make the playoff. This is LSU.
He can make the playoff. So at Clemson, I have as a loss, right?
I agree.
At Bama, I have as a loss.
I agree. Bama has had his number the last 2 years.
Well, that means you got to run the table on all the other games. Now, I will say it's a favorable home schedule.
He should win all those games. The only one at Ole Miss and at Oklahoma. Those 2 are tricky.
If Oklahoma has a good year, I think that's a loss. If Venables is there, then I think they lose that game. If Venables is canned, I think LSU wins that thing. I'm going to say he threads the needle. 9-3. Maybe they get that last playoff spot.
Such a Brian Kelly year.
9-3. He's in. He's back. How about you?
I think I tend to agree with you. I think he's going to survive. He's a survivor. I was actually just thinking about it. If Fickell is to be fired and say Kelly goes 8-4 and he's fired, he'd be a great fit at Wisconsin, in my opinion, or one of those Midwest jobs where he's a little bit more under the radar. If only he had the resources at Notre Dame to get to a national championship. Oh wait, Marcus Freeman did this year.
Yeah. I could see him in a few spots too. I think some ACC schools could potentially call him too.
He's not a bad coach.
Pittsburgh.
Yeah. I hope he doesn't go there.
Yeah.
All of a sudden, he'll have a Pittsburgh accent when he gets up there to Steel City. Nebraska.
He'll have a hard hat on and be like, I was down, my great uncle was fucking,
Roberto Clemente myself.
I love Deer Hunter.
I love Terry Bradshaw.
Folks, I want to tell you that the college football experience is brought to you by Underdog Fantasy. Yes. Love Underdog Fantasy when it comes to college football. Play it all the time, but right now it's the offseason. So play it UFL, stat projections, UFL, MLB, NBA, NHL. That's all there for you. PGA, MMA. They got every single sport, and I really feel like there's an edge you can't find elsewhere here. So what are you doing? Sign up with our promo code TCESGPN to claim your special pick plus first time deposit offer up to $1,000 in bonus credits. That's underdogfantasy.com promo code TCESGPN. We're also brought to you by Rhythm. Yes, Rhythm is your home for AI backed picks and props, and they just dropped their model for Major League Baseball. Go check that out. They've also got models for NBA and golf. I know we would use the models with college football and college basketball. The fantastic stuff. Picks so good it feels like cheating. Look, and one of the things I love is you can build your own model. That's what I would always do. I'd take elements from theirs and build my own. Rhythm has some amazing deals going on now too. 25% off the monthly subscription with the promo code SGPN25 and 50% off the annual subscription with the promo code SGPN50. Once again, that's Rhythm, RITHMM. Promo code SGPN25 and SGPN50. All right. We are back talking hot seat long episodes happening on the college football experience. Brent Venables, 22-17. Oklahoma's going all in. You can see it in the portal. They're bringing in guys left and right. Can he survive it? New offensive coordinator, new quarterback, John Mateer, coming in from Wazoo with his OC. They went out and get Jaden Ott, the star running back for Cal. I mean, they load up on the O-line. They raided Stanford once the Troy Taylor shit happened. The schedule. I think the non-con breaks. I actually think this schedule breaks nice for them.
It's great.
So the home games to start the season, you're home to Illinois State, you're home to Michigan, and Bryce Underwood's what I'm assuming will be his first road start of his career. Then you're at the Link for some reason, taking on Temple. Then you're home to Auburn. And then you get a bye week and you're home to Kent State, who, they're the worst program in the FBS out of 136 teams. You're getting, how about this? They are getting,
they should be 5-0 easy.
I think they should be 5-0 coming into that Red River shootout there at the Cotton Bowl. Now, I have no idea what happens there, but I will say the next 4 games are incredibly challenging. So you have the Red River shootout, and then off of that, which let's say they do win the Red River shootout. There's no way they're going to follow that up, winning an emotional game against Texas, who's beat their ass a couple years there, with going to Williams-Brice and taking on South Carolina. They will be 1-1 in that stretch. I will guarantee you there. That's 1 loss right there. Then they're home to Ole Miss and then at Tennessee. Then they get a bye week. They're at Bama, home to Mizzou, and home to LSU. Call me crazy, man. Kind of like their schedule.
9-3.
Yeah, I think he's going to salvage this.
Yeah.
Everyone's got to stay healthy though.
Yeah, and I think they want him to win. They like Venables. He was with Stoops, and they're still fucking pissed off the way Riley left. They wanted to hire Venables, an Oklahoma man, a guy that wants to be there, that represents the old brand. So I think they're going to give him every chance, and they've ponied up here for a roster. So yeah, I think he gets another year. I think they do enough here in the 25 season.
I will say this though: if they lose to Michigan or Auburn, you could also see a path where, like if they lose week 2 to Michigan, then it makes that Auburn game tricky. And then that gauntlet of Texas, South Carolina, Ole Miss, and Tennessee, followed by Bama, could be, he could be fired by the second bye week. You know what I mean? Like if you lose to Michigan, even if you beat Auburn, if you lose to Michigan 1 loss and then you lose to Texas and follow that with South Carolina and a snowball effect happens, you have 3 losses, you're sitting there at 3-3, and then you lose to Ole Miss and Tennessee, you're 3-5. He could be fired right then.
Yep.
I don't think it will though. I think he's back next year.
And Colby, I think it also depends on how the Texas game plays out, because last year they were embarrassed. He's been embarrassed 2 out of the 3 times. Prior to that, man, they had Texas's number. They've been slapping Texas around for a decade plus there. So usually Oklahoma's been the better team in that rivalry. So can they get back and knock off the horns? That'd be a huge win for him, just with some momentum going in the second half.
One thing I'll say, and I love John Mateer, right? He kind of reminds me of like Max Duggan or something like, but he has games when he's fucking off. Now he needs to take a step forward. Now there was games he was popping in fantasy football and DFS. I played him a lot last year, but when he has those off games, he has fucking off games. He's got to work on his consistency. And if that's the big gamble here is you brought in the OC and the QB, but I can tell you this, if he's as inconsistent as he was a year ago, Venables ain't going to make it. He's got to be more consistent. I think he's back next year.
We agree.
Next up, let's go to the ACC. Justin Wilcox and Cal. Goddamn, their whole team just transferred last week. I don't know if you caught that. They lost 6 running backs in one day. That's tough. And they lost their what I think majority of their starting offensive line. He's 42-50 at Cal. Now, I have somewhat defended Justin Wilcox over the years, mainly because I know Cal Berkeley was batshit crazy during COVID. So I think that record is a little bit unfair. It's like they couldn't practice. You know what I mean? Like you're playing game. Like it was a really bad scenario there, I would say, for 2 years. And if you look during that stretch, that's the 2 losing seasons. He really, like, that's when he really ate shit. 2020, 1-3, 21, 5-7, 22, 4-8. Now I'm not making excuses, but I will say I lived in Los Angeles at that point, and Los Angeles took a lot longer than the rest of the country to come out of it. So imagine Berkeley, fucking California. They lost their whole fucking team. They're starting quarterbacks at Indiana. Now they're starting running back is at Oklahoma. One of their best wideouts is at Nebraska. But damn, if I would, Brian Harson's their new offensive coordinator. And guess what? Who he's paired with? Nick Rolovich. Those are my guys. Ron Rivera's the GM. And let me tell you, the schedule has opportunity. Have you looked at this schedule? I think this is one of the schedule. I think it's one of the most fascinating ones we have, dude. Like out of all these ones, not that Cal is an interesting team, like historically. I'm just saying, like, I could see you could build a case where, despite them losing all that production, they could still be good, right? Like I with that schedule, which I'm pulling up right now. You know, and Wilcox went into Auburn and beat Auburn last year, by the way. Remember that game? You look at the schedule though, at Oregon State, who was, you know, they're not the Oregon State we know them to be yet. Then home to Texas Southern, home to Minnesota, who lost a lot of production. At San Diego State, who's still building it. At Boston College, year 2 of O'Brien, but still winnable. Home to Duke, cross country. Duke won 9 games last year, but still winnable. Bye week, home to Bill Belichick on a short week, and Carolina going cross country, winnable. At Virginia Tech, I mean, tough crowd, but they've been ass lately, so winnable. Home to Virginia, winnable. At Louisville, I would assume this would be the penciled in loss. Then you get another bye week at Stanford, rivalry game, but Stanford's without their head coach, so I would say very winnable. And then home to SMU, which I will say is actually winnable. Like, I mean, I think he's going to salvage it. I think he's going to go 7-5. Ron Rivera likes him because he's a defensive-minded guy. Justin Wilcox, obviously the defense coordinator on all those Boise State teams with Chris Peterson. I think he salvages it 7-5. You know, even 6-6. I think Cal might keep him. How about you?
I don't like that Rivera's the GM. I got Stanford in the back of my mind. I think Ron's going to want to bring in one of his Cal guys. So I think Wilcox could go 6-6, and I think he could go like work at Oregon for a year or one of these big powers as a defensive coordinator, and then get another gig. I mean, he's been there. How many years has he been there now? Is this his 9th year? Yeah, 9th year. So I think 6-6, and I think that they move on from him. I'll predict they do. He's fired. Actually, this will be one of my. I got bad vibes on that Rivera thing. He's
fair. I think it's very fair to say this. Like,
yeah.
And I can tell you this: 6-6 might get him fired. If he wins 7, I mean, I think Harson's a better coach. That's what I'm saying. I think him with Harson, and then I also think Rolovich. I kind of like the coaching staff. So it's like, I know they just lost everybody, but maybe they can get this thing rolling. I'm going to say he's back. You say he's fired. There we go. Next up in the ACC, Mike Norvell. He's 33-27 at Florida State.
This is hilarious.
I mean, one year they should have been in the playoffs. The other year they win 2 games. I mean, one year they win 9 wins. The other year they lose to FCS. I mean, it's been a roller coaster for Mike Norvell. 33-27, the hot seat effect going in here for Saudi Arabia State. Now, here's one thing I will say is you look at the schedule. I mean, the win total is way up, by the way. I know they just won 2 games a year ago, but I think it's at 7.5, the win total out there in Vegas, maybe 8, which is a big jump. You rarely see a team win 2 games and the win total set that drastic. That might be the biggest one in the past decade. Are you buying into this? Because you got Alabama week 1. Now after that, sure, you get Texas A&M Commerce, the Chinese food restaurant, and Kent State. Kent State's on all these goddamn schedules, and
they're going to go next year.
Yeah, but dude, I mean, assuming Napier is still coaching in November at Florida, you get Alabama, who fringe playoff team, Miami. Fringe playoff team, at Clemson playoff team, at Florida. I mean, it's not a true ball buster of a schedule, but I mean,
tough ending, tough November,
really tough November. Because that let me tell you. Oh no, they're hosting Virginia Tech. Okay, I thought that was at Virginia Tech.
They still got to go to NC State. I mean, I know NC State's not the best team, but it's a road game, and then you got at Clemson and at the Swamp. That's tough. God, what number does he need to get to survive? 9-3?
I think 8-4 is fine.
8-4?
I think it's like 6-6, 7-5 is the one that is. Because 2 years ago, he could just say, "Hey guys, 2 years ago we had this thing. They robbed us."
Yeah,
you know. But if you're 6-6 at Florida State this many times, flirting around 500, it might be that time. What do you think?
I think he survives.
I think he survives too.
I refuse to think that they're going to go like 2-10 or 3-9 again. I mean, that was crazy the way that they collapsed. It was entertaining just with the way that they acted that offseason. But yeah, I think they bounce back.
I think he survives too. I think they win. I'm going to say 7 or 8. That's good enough. It's good enough. Mario Cristobal over with the Canes. This is an interesting one. He's 22-16, but Cam Ward is about to be the first pick of the draft, who he only had for 1 year there. And I've been a long time. I feel like it's trendy now. People say Cristobal can't coach, man. I was calling this shit out for a while, and I have legit concerns over, like, I understand their roster keeps buying talent, but they open up Catholics versus convicts against Notre Dame. I think Marcus Freeman's a much better head coach now. That's kind of a 50-50 game. It's in Miami Gardens, but I think Notre Dame will travel to that. I think the month of September, like really all the way to October 4th, gigantic. Because you lose to Notre Dame and Florida, or I would even say if you just lose to Notre Dame, Florida, or Florida State, 2 of those ones, and you're 3-2, I have reason to be concerned down the stretch here, because I think Jeff Brom in Louisville can get you. You're at SMU, which I think can get you. Fran Brown and Syracuse, I think is a tricky game. They play a lot of close games a year ago. At Virginia Tech in November 22nd, that's going to be cold as fuck. Followed by at Pitt on the 29th. This is one that's interesting, because I tend to think they're going to struggle this year, but I also think like he has a big buyout too. Like, where's that balance on, like, he's from Miami.
He's one of their own. They'll give him every chance. They want him to be good, but he can't.
Well, and having the first pick of the draft, I know that Cam Ward played at Incarnate Word in Washington State, but they're going to say from the University of Miami. That might be able to help some recruiting stuff there, but I tend to think like you're looking at like a 7-5 type season to me. Like, I don't think to me, there's no Wake Forest on the schedule. There's no, yes, there's Stanford, which you want, but there, to me, it's a harder ACC schedule than you getting. Like, I expect Florida State to rebound. We just talked about that, 7-8 wins. Well, then you're also getting Louisville, who I think is one of the top teams in the ACC. You're also getting SMU, who I think is one of the top teams in the ACC. You're then getting 2 late season, and now this is how it could break nice for them. At Virginia Tech and at Pitt, I totally think they'll probably lose both those games if Brent Pry and Pat Narduzzi are there. But if they're interim head coaches, I could see Miami winning those games.
Well, it goes back to Miami last year. Like, the fact that they didn't make the playoff with that team was actually comical.
I was all over that Syracuse win. Over that Syracuse win.
All they got to do is split Georgia Tech and Syracuse, and they're in the playoff. They had already gotten every break throughout the year. They got every call against Virginia Tech on the Hail Mary. Then at Cal, they robbed Cal in that game. And then in Louisville, they robbed Louisville with that roughing the passer. Yeah. So it was like they had gotten every break, and then they somehow fucked it up and did not beat either Georgia Tech or Syracuse, and they missed the playoff. Now they got Carson back. I think he'll be back just because he's one of their own, and they want him to be good. They want him to be the guy to revive Miami. But I'm with you. I see like an 8-4 with Miami this year. They have so much talent, but they always choke.
If he goes 8-4, he'll be 30-20, which might buy him one more year. I think I'll join you on that. But man, This is what's compelling about this year, I think, more than other years. Could you imagine Miami, Florida State, Florida, LSU, USC, and say Penn State opening up?
Yep.
I mean, just fucking could be a crazy year. Next up, let's go to Pitt. Pat Narduzzi, he's 72-56.
Keep him.
He won an ACC championship in the past 4 years. But they have a new athletic director. And he, from what I just get the gist, he might clash with some people.
No, not Nardog.
Yeah. Pat Narduzzi. Now, I'll tell you this, man. I tend to think the offense is going to fly this year. Hiring Cade Bell, Kerwin Bell's son, as OC last year. Now, I know it was last season was a bit of a disaster. Like, it was all over the place. But I tend to think in year 2, because that was year 1 he walked into that. Now they started off like 6-0 or something, and then lost
7 in a row.
Yeah. So, I mean, so he was 7-6. So he started off 7-0, and they lost 6 straight, including, the bowl game to Toledo.
He kicked a field goal from the 1 yard.
Classic Narduzzi.
Double overtime.
Classic Narduzzi. But I'll tell you this, man. I like that Cade Bell hire at the OC. Like, I think he's gonna have the offense going even more in year 2, because it was a pretty radical change, I thought, going from the other Signetti to Cade Bell and what he likes to do. If Narduzzi can just have the defense going, which normally, I mean, that's his MO.
Yeah.
I think they're a really hard team to year in, year out. They're a tough team to predict, because they're capable of beating anybody when you have Narduzzi's defense, which is aggressive and he'll take a 3-star and make them like a 1st-round draft pick or a 2nd-round draft pick or a 10-year NFL vet. He does do that on the defensive side of the ball. And you look at the one time they won the ACC championship, Mark Whipple, the OC, was getting it going. And I see a lot of similarities with Cade Bell and Mark Whipple. Now, you don't have Kenny Pickett, but they're just a hard team for me to forecast, especially with, not only are they a hard team to forecast on how they'll do this year, they're a hard program to forecast because Pat Narduzzi, I do believe he clashes heads. When you have a new athletic director, you could be like, dude, get the fuck out of here. I'd say it's one of the harder ones to do here with this exercise. Now you look at the schedule. Now I was on VSiN last week, and I like the over because I look at that schedule and I say, I kind of like this schedule. Duquesne, Central Michigan to start. Now they're at West Virginia to take on Rich Rod, but it is Rich Rod in the first month of the season, which to me is when you want to face him, because once that offense gets going, and it will get going at some point, if you're telling me you got to face West Virginia, I want him in the first month of the season.
Rich Rod better not lose that one though.
With the history there.
Yeah.
But even if you lose that is not a conference game. And you look at the conference schedule, there's no, first off, Notre Dame is on the schedule in Pittsburgh, but it's not a conference game. The conference schedule is very nice. Mm-hmm. Home to Louisville. Louisville got destroyed the last time they played at Pitt, right? Home, they get Miami on November 29th, which is such a great spot. And by the way, they get a bye week before Louisville. So those two are the hardest games. There's no Clemson. There's no Florida State. Or no, there is Florida State. I'm sorry. There is Florida State. So, okay. That would be the one that you would circle then as the tough road spot. But man, I think it's worth taking a future. I know he could be fired. This is what the dangerous play is with Narduzzi. But when you look, I would say they have one of the better ACC schedules that I've seen. I think it's the top 3 ACC schedule, top 4 ACC schedule. North Carolina Tar Heels also in there. Same with Cal. I'm going to say he's back next year. How about you?
Narduzzi's a survivor. I think he'll find a way to win enough. This screams like 7-5. But I don't think they're going to fire the Pitt head coach at 7-5.
Tell me something though. What is the guaranteed loss in conference play? I don't know that like Florida State would be the one, right?
I mean, I would be really surprised if they won in Tallahassee. Yeah, I mean, like you said, the non-con is where it's tough. Because Notre Dame's a non-con game, and then at West Virginia. So like they could lose those two games. They'll be underdogs in both those games, and then they could take care of business in the ACC. Yeah, I mean, this screams Pitt 7-5, 8-4. To your point, like Narduzzi does just enough to survive. He pisses everybody off, but then he wins enough games, and he's back for another year.
And if he's 8-4, and those two losses are or two of the four losses are to Notre Dame and West Virginia, I think that puts them in the ACC championship.
It's hilarious. I mean, that Miami game could be for a chance.
That's what I'm saying, man. I mean, it's an interesting. It's a very nice schedule.
Stanford, he's losing at Stanford.
Like they'll definitely lose. They'll definitely lose. Yeah, they'll probably lose a home game to somebody too, like NC State or something. That makes no sense. But
like Virginia last year.
Yeah, but still, that would only be 2 conference losses. And I look at last season, that would have got you in. You in. So, I'm going to say he's back. You say he's back. Let's move along. Tony Elliott sounds like a NASCAR driver. 11-23 at Virginia. They did get some money NIL wise coming through Charlottesville. You talked about Virginia a second ago. Now, here's one that I find really interesting because they bring in Chandler Morris, who's been in college forever. I get Venables vibes here, where they all of a sudden get a little bit of money. Well, not that Oklahoma got a little bit of money. They've always had some money, but they went all in for this year's roster. You saw Dion calling them out for tampering with their players. Tony Elliott knows it's this season or bust. They kind of looked better to me last year. Now you look at the schedule, it's another, like, it's not a ball buster of a schedule. I think if he goes bowling, he's back another year. Virginia doesn't have crazy demands.
Yeah, that's all he needs to do. He just needs to show a bowl game, and then it's progress every single year.
I see. I think he's back. I think he's going to get to a bowl game. I look at like Coastal Carolina, William and Mary. They're hosting Washington State in the non-con. I think that'll be 3 wins. Wake Forest on the schedule is always great, 4 wins. I honestly think, like, if you asked me, I thought they were playing better than Virginia Tech last year. Now, Virginia Tech also owns them, so I can't say for sure that that's a win, but I think he's going to find a way to get to 6-6 and bowling. And then you ask yourself, is he back? I think they'll give him another year because he was there during that tragedy. I think they'll say, hey, let's give him 1 more year. He's back. How about you?
He's kind of the opposite of Narduzzi in terms of he's liked. From what I can gather, I think they want him to be good, and I think he does enough. I'm with you. I think they go bowling finally. It may come down to that Virginia Tech game where the loser gets fired.
Yeah,
transition into the next coach.
Yeah, Brent Pry, 16-21 with the Hokies. What happened? We did an episode, State of the Program. Go listen to that where we dive into what exactly happened. We had a guest from the Too Deep podcast on, which is a Virginia Tech podcast, on the Saturday. Go check out that. We just dropped it in the past 7 days. Yeah, I'm not a big fan of his teams and the way they've been coached during his tenure in Blacksburg. And with Kyron Drones already with an injury situation going on, I mean, the schedule, we talked about it with Pete. Shout out to Pete B from the Sons of Saturday. But the schedule does break nice for him, but I can't get there, especially with the uncertainty at the quarterback spot. I'm going to say Brent Pry is fired after this season. Expectations are still there. It's Virginia Tech. They should be better than what they've been under Brent Pry. I even think if he goes 6-6, he's fired. He needs to have a winning season in my eyes for them to bring him back. What are you doing here?
See, I liked the schedule.
No, I said the schedule's nice. Like if you can get through, if you can get through that first stretch of the SEC games, because you don't want to be 0-2. You don't want to be 0-2 because then, and with the drone situation, honestly, like I wanted to pick that this could be the year, but you're getting these reports that Drone's already injured. Like,
I know what you mean.
I just don't like. You're putting a lot of faith in the unknown.
I talked about this on the tech episode we did. I like taking the team that had the hype last year and they kind of got slice of humble pie and they bounce back with a chip on their shoulder the next year. I think they'll go like 8-4. I think it'll be like a Neil Brown like performance for Brent Pry where they overachieve with the nice schedule and he does enough to get another year. So I'll say Pry's back.
All right, there we go. I like this. We're getting the contrast here. Next up, and we go to the Big 12. Brent, we talked about him last night on the show. 4-8.
Not very good.
Yeah, that's especially coming off a great year prior. In year one, he was just 4-8. This would be the only coach I think we'd be talking about besides DeBoer that would get fired in year two. And the big question here is, does Arizona have the money to do this? I think he's going to be safe. I think he's going to get them to a bowl. And I think he's good for another year, especially knowing the financial trouble that I hear they're in. I think he's safe for a third season.
I agree with you. And the Big 12 is such a variance league where it's such a up and down league because there's so many one possession games. I think Brennan took it on the chin year one. They'll make some adjustments, how they recruited, and they'll get on the right side of some of these games. I think they go back bowling this year. This is another team that had high expectations, got humbled. Now they're coming back with the chip on their shoulder. Nobody believes in them.
Yeah. And I also think like he was dealt a tough hand. A lot of these guys transferred out.
He's a good coach. I think he did a great job at San Jose.
I see our boy John. Shout out to John in the chat. They had so much talent on offense last year, but you got to remember they got hit bad on the line of scrimmage.
Yeah.
Like I feel like that was the reason why I took the under was like the line of scrimmage transfers that went, and two of them started at Texas. So just to give you an idea, pretty big losses there. Next up in the Big 12, Dave Aranda. The man's got 9 lives, 31-30. 31-30. I like Dave Aranda, Mike Leach guy. I want to root for Dave. I think he's a good football coach. And I think his record at 31-30, I think if you dive into it, I actually think it's better than 31-30. He has so many close losses where you would say, well, he doesn't really get blown out in a lot of games, but that doesn't do you. I mean, you got to win those fucking games though at the same time. So Baylor returns, first off, I thought he did a good job coaching last year. They went 8-5 and, they lost to Colorado on a Hail Mary. They lost to BYU by 6. I mean, they're not that far away from being a 10-win team.
Yep.
So I'm going to say he's back. I say he survives. I think he beats Hugh Strip Club Freeze week 1. But I mean, the Big 12 is a gauntlet. They could lose any of these fucking games. I'm looking at the schedule right now. They got SMU and Auburn in the non-con. So they play 9. They're playing 11 Power 5s. That's not going to help. You're playing 11 Power 5s, and then you have Samford as the FCS there. But still, like, I mean, this is what's so hard to do with the Big 12 is like
Big 12 is such a shit show, man.
I mean, I could sit here and build you a case of them going 9-3 and playing for the Big 12 championship. I could also build you a case of them going 3-9 because you're just sitting there like, okay, they could lose to Auburn. They could lose to SMU in the non-con. They get Arizona State with Sam Leavitt. Now it's in Waco, but they could lose that. At Oklahoma State, I expect Gundy to be back, having the Cowboys playing at a much better level. Then they're home to Kansas State, which I think they could certainly lose. Then they're at TCU. Josh Hoover's back. They won 9 games, I think, a year ago. Sure, that's a tough win to get. So they do get Cincinnati and UCF, which I like, but then they get Utah, and I don't know. It's just a fucking. I think he's back. He's bowling. He's back. I think he's a good football coach. How about you?
I was going to say, if he goes bowling, he's back. I think that's the expectation. I don't think they're going to fire him if they go 7-5. Yeah, I think he gets to another bowl game. So yeah, I think Aranda will be back. I think they have enough wins on that schedule. But like you said, man, the Big 12, some of these teams don't do themselves any favors with these schedules. So
yeah, scheduling And then like the variance is like one missed field goal here, one made field goal here, or pick six or something is all the difference in some of these games.
Every Baylor Oklahoma State game, Baylor TCU, Baylor K-State, all those games come down to the final possession every year.
Yeah. It's tough, man. It's really tough. I think he's back. Next up, we're going to Cincinnati. Scotty Satterfield and the Bearcats. He's 8-16. That's not good. Remember, they were in the playoffs just 3 or 4 years ago. 8-16. The non-con is Nebraska, Bowling Green, and Northwestern State. Now, Nebraska is at Arrowhead Stadium in Kansas City. I didn't like the hire. I was shocked by the hire, actually. I really was, because I thought Louisville was about to fire him. So they hired him and gave Louisville like $6 million, whatever it was. One of the more puzzling things there. I think he's done. I didn't like the fit. I still don't like the fit. I think he's done at Cincinnati. What are you doing here?
Yeah, I mean, what's he got to do to survive? 7-5?
I would say 7-5.
I don't think he gets that. The Nebraska game might as well be a road game. They're playing at Arrowhead. That'll be a Nebraska crowd. You got to play Leipold on the road. You got to play Gundy on the road. You got to play Whittingham on the road. You got to play I see a 5-7, 6-6 type year. I think Satterfield's gone and Fickell might be back next year.
That would be fantastic. Next up, I can't believe people keep mentioning this. Can you make this make sense for me? Sonny Dykes.
He had a great year last year.
I mean, the guy went to the national championship 3 years ago. Sure, they got housed, but they still beat Michigan and Harbaugh to get there. Like, what am I like? I don't think he should be on the hot seat, but everything I see, and I will say this, it's like a Matt Rhule situation. They have a new athletic director, Jeremiah Donati. Their old AD went to South Carolina. Maybe that has something to do with it. But I've seen on multiple, just other platforms, just looking at their hot seats. Sonny Dykes on there, 27-13. He went to the fucking national championship.
He went 6-3 in the league last year, 8-4 overall, 9-4 with the bowl game.
Yeah, and I kind of like that. I mean, I know they get the non-con once again. SMU and North Carolina on there, 11 Power Fives. But I think the team's pretty good. I liked what he did with Andy Avalos, defensive coordinator coming in from Boise.
Yeah,
I think he's fine. I actually wouldn't be surprised if they play for the Big 12 championship this year.
I'm with you. I think TCU will be a bowl team. I think they're around that 8 to 9 win mark again. They have dudes on that team. They have athletes, and then Hoover being back for another year is huge, and the buy-in clearly with turning down the Tennessee money. I think he's back.
Now you lose to Bill Belichick in game 1, like he did Dion. Maybe that's probably what pissed off the boosters. But anyway. Yeah, I think he's back. Next up, let's go to Lubbock. The team I think is one of the more interesting teams in all of college football this year, because Texas Tech has gone all in on football. I mean, their transfer portal class, number 1 rated in the country by a substantial amount, I think, too. They have thrown major money behind this program. Major money that I don't think a lot of people even thought Texas Tech had. Joey McGuire, legendary high school coach, 23-16. And I'll be honest, I like Joey McGuire. I don't understand. You want to talk about losing close games? They lose close games, man. I feel like all of his losses are fucking close games.
Yes.
So I tend to think he's a decent coach. Now, what they lose, they lost to TCU 35-34. Maybe last year, I guess they got blown out by Washington State and Baylor, but still,
They've scheduled hard too. This was a good non-con. They set themselves up for a nice cakewalk here compared to other years.
Yeah. Man. I mean, the question is though, is that them spending this much money makes me think 7-5 ain't going to cut it. He's been going 7-5.
Yeah.
Oh man, I'm looking at the schedule right now, and Kent. Hey, guess what? Kent State's on the schedule. What the fuck? Do they have a conference?
Yeah, they're a Power 5 school. Now, remember, 2 years ago they had expectations, and they went to Wyoming week 1, then played Oregon week 2. They don't have that. Like, that was insane. That back-to-back start the year.
Still, I look at road games at Utah, at Houston, at Arizona State, at Kansas State, and then on November 29th, Morgantown, West Virginia. No. I think he's going to go 7-5. And I don't know that that's good enough for their boosters.
Not with that money they spent. I think he goes 8-4, and it's a hard decision.
I think he's done, even though I think he's a good football coach. Like, I think he should be a head coach elsewhere. If he gets fired at 7-5, if I'm another school, like in the ACC, I know he's a Texas guy through and through, but hey, maybe there's another job that opens up.
North Texas.
Yes, and we'll talk about them in a little bit. But you think he's back next year? What do you think?
I think he survives. One more year.
Let's talk about that next team. That is a group of 5s here. The AAC Eric Morris agency here. The Mean Green. He's 11-14. I was puzzled by them firing Seth Luttrell, who I thought had done a decent job. It got him to, I think, 2 Conference USA championships. Yeah. And replaced him with Eric Morris, and it hasn't been the smoothest of sailing. I think he's going to be fired personally. I look at the schedule and they're at Western Michigan. I tend to think Western Michigan's a better football team than them right now with Lance Taylor. They're home to Washington State. Now, if you got that, maybe that would mean something, but I tend to think that'll be a loss. At Army, I think will be a loss. Home to South Alabama on Major Applewhite. Circle that as maybe a pivotal game for them to get in the non-con there. But then after that, it's bye week, home to South Florida, home to UTSA. I will say this: you get a lot of good home spots on the schedule, but I don't think the team is that good. So I think South Florida, UTSA, hell, even Navy, I think is going to give them. I like Navy's chances. So, yeah, give me. I think he's fired. I don't think he's going to survive it. I think they got to go bowling, and I don't mean like a 5-7 bowling because sometimes you see that. I'm talking 7-5. I think he's canned. How about you?
Yeah, and I think they actually care at North Texas. So yeah, I mean 6-10 in 2 years in the AAC, not going to cut it. I think he gets one more year here, and this is it. I think it's another 5-7, maybe 6-6. But I don't even know if 6-6 gets it done for him. They played for a conference championships before he got there.
Yeah. I think he's done. Which, hey, by the way, if Jordan McGuire does get fired, maybe you call him. Call him. Next up in the AAC, Trent Dill for 7-17. This one all had us confused from the start because Bill Clark had stayed with the program during its time where they went away, and he kept playing. Stayed through the long haul, fought for the team to get the football program back, got the football program back, then had some great seasons. And then he got some health problems, but his guy with him was Bryant Vincent, who had a great year 1 at ULM. They passed on him, even though he was the interim. They passed on him to hire Trent Dilfer, who has got his ass kicked in a lot of games. They've
been awful.
Yeah. What does he say? I feel like I have a Dilfer quote
not
on here.
Impressed with the modern game.
Yeah, well, I don't think the modern game's impressed with you.
Modern day game does not impress me. It's super easy when you don't get hit as a quarterback, and when you can't reroute receivers, and when you can't hit guys across the middle. I love Tom Brady. I love Aaron Rodgers. I love these guys. It's not impressive.
Either is going 3-9 and giving up 71 points to Tulane. How about this? Losing by 40, 38 to Memphis. Losing to Charlotte.
Army and Navy games.
Yeah, I mean, Army 44-10, Navy 41-18. That's what's so great. He's done. This isn't going to work out. It never was going to work out. I mean, it would be a cool storyline if they made a bowl. It ain't happening. I think they're going to get fucked up. And now you add Rice and other team. Do they ever tell me they have Rice on the schedule this year?
Yeah, at Rice. After they play at UConn, they'll lose both those.
Okay, but no Navy. Oh, no, they do have Navy. They play 3 triple option teams. They're going to get fucked up all 3 of those games because Rice is running the triple now. He's done. He's done.
He'll beat Alabama State, Akron, then he'll win. Oh, that might be it, actually.
Yeah. Did you have Hugh Freeze getting fired at Auburn?
No, I had him beating Alabama. Final.
Because I was going to say, if he gets fired, I could see him at UAB. Andy Kennedy 2.0 there.
Yeah. No, I had him surviving just enough. Maybe the Bowers goes to UAB.
Yeah, I mean, well, I don't know. He'll get another gig somewhere else, but
he's gonna flee the state of Alabama if he gets fired.
Yeah, unbelievable. Trent Dilfer there. Next up, Tim Beck at Coastal Carolina. I make this joke, but I actually really believe this has really probably happened. Tim Beck was the offensive coordinator with Diego Pavia at New Mexico State and with Jerry Kill, who had an 11-win season there at New Mexico State. He was also the guy first hired at Vanderbilt who brought in the other guys. This is not that Tim Beck. I believe they went to go hire Tim Beck, right? Because this Tim Beck was at NC State. And if you look, the offense was terrible. I don't even understand why so they called the wrong Tim Beck in my mind. They don't want to, it was a bad PR. They don't want to give bad PR and say, hey, we hired the wrong Tim Beck. But I believe that's what happened here because I was just confused at the hiring from the start. He's 14-12 at Coastal Carolina, the beach. And I don't know if you caught this storyline. How about Coastal Carolina doing what was it? Free burgers and hot dogs and sodas at games in Conway. That's fantastic. I think I will be there for when East Carolina comes into Brooks Stadium and beats the Tar Heel on September 13th. But the schedule is, the schedule has some challenges. I mean, Virginia we think is better. Virginia smacked them last year. Yeah, I expect them to be dogs against Virginia, ECU, and South Alabama. They have Charleston Southern and FCS there. But I look at the other road games in conference at Old Dominion, at App State, at Georgia Southern. And there's an at South Carolina deep into that as well. I think he's fired. I don't think he's going to make it. They end with JMU. Yeah. I mean, where are the wins? I think ULM is a better football team probably right now than Coastal Carolina. I don't see many wins on this. Okay, theoretically, let's say they upset South Alabama, ECU, or Virginia. So there's 2 wins there.
Monroe at home, I guess.
Old Dominion, they're capable of. I don't think they're going to, but they're capable of. But after that, good luck. Maybe Georgia State.
Maybe
best case scenario. I got him at 5-7. I think 3-9 is what's going to happen here. I think he's canned at Coastal Carolina, and they got to go out and get somebody that fits that's Hugh Freeze. That is Hugh Freeze. That's fucking Kenny Powers 2.0. I think he's canned. How about you?
Yeah, Chadwell's not there anymore. This is a different Coastal team, and they have definitely taken a huge step back. Yeah, I think he's gone. I think we get another opening here in the Sun Belt. I think a 4-8, 5-7 for sure.
Yeah,
I don't think they get to a bowl.
I don't think so either, man. Unfortunately. Speaking of Old Dominion, Ricky Ronnie, who I think is a good coach, they get rated in the portal probably more than any team in the Sun Belt, in my opinion. And I know he's 20-30, but I feel like this is another one with COVID. They didn't play during the COVID season. Them and UConn won a natty, you might recall. Yeah. But I actually think he's a good football coach. Like X's and O's wise, every time I watch them, I'm like, I'm impressed. Now, having said all that, I think he's fired because I just think I really think he's a good football coach, but you're 20-30 and their team gets absolutely rated every year. I don't think there's much talent on this roster, but I think he'll probably overachieve my expectations, but there still won't be enough. They'll fire him. They'll hire Michael Vick at Norfolk State after 1 year.
And, he was waiting for it. That Vick thing does not help Ronnie here, man.
I mean, but the guy's a good football. Like I think like he deserves another shot somewhere else, but I don't know that he will get it, but I think he's done. How about you?
Well, he was the offensive coordinator at Penn State. If Koltanecki gets a job, he could slide right back into his old
That's
gig.
true. That's true.
He's only 44. I think he'll get another gig. I mean, like you said, ODU's a tough gig. And yeah, the Vic thing is definitely does not help him because they're getting a lot of pub down there in the 757. Also, it doesn't help that he's got to go to Indiana and to Virginia Tech, 2 out of the first 3 games. So already a tough spot. Then you got Liberty, at Marshall, at JMU. So 4 tough road games just in the first 2 months. Yeah, I probably think he misses a bowl and they'll move on at ODU. We'll see if Vic fits the bill there. I mean, do they make the jump after 1 year to get some PR and some energy in that place?
He's got to win this year. He's got to win this year, but it would make sense if you're ODU. It makes a ton of sense.
Yeah.
Anyway, right down the road. This one is just unbelievable to me.
How's he still employed?
I've been saying this forever. I'm like, first off, they fired Skip Holtz. You want to talk about karma? Let me just walk you through. Skip Holtz, by the way, has won 3 straight Spring Bowl championships or Spring League championships. But I just want to paint a picture for the folks out there. Skip Holtz and La Tech, 2014. So he gets hired in 2013, goes 4-8. 2014, 9-5. 2015, 9-4. 2016, 9-5. 2017, 7-6. 2018, 8-5. 2019, 10-3. Then during COVID, 5-5 season, which they still went to a bowl, by the way. They had a winning record in the regular season. They lost the bowl game. So he took them to 9 straight bowl games. And then he has a 2021 season coming out of COVID where they were 3-9. During that 3-9 season, they lost by 1, blowing a 17-point lead to Mississippi State. They lost by 2 to SMU on a Hail Mary. They lost by 7 at NC State, right? And I can go on. They had a bunch more 3-point losses, 2-point losses. And then they fired him that offseason to hire Sonny Cumbie, which I just think, I thought it was a lame firing. I thought it was a lame hire at the time. And you look at what Louisiana Tech's done with Sonny Cumbie, they've gotten blown out in all these games. The only reason why they made a bowl last year is Marshall quit and said they didn't want to make a bowl, or they didn't want to play the bowl. And then they suddenly needed to find one on a fly. And their proximity to Shreveport, Louisiana was the reason why they made a bowl game. They weren't bowl eligible. They just needed to run a team in there. They were 5-7. And guess what? They got thumped in the bowl game in a game I bet on. I don't know how the fuck this dude has a job. There's no way he survives this.
Yeah, I mean, like you said, he's 11-26 in 3 years. And Louisiana Tech has resources, in my opinion, compared to some of the other Conference USA teams. You can't tell me they don't have more resources than Jacksonville State. He's a dead man walking. He's got to at least win 7-8 games, which why would I think that's going to happen after the first 3 years I've seen?
Yeah. I don't think it's going to happen, but I mean, I guess the CUSA has been wacky. New Mexico State won 11, then 3. So, I mean, I guess it's possible, but I don't think it's going to happen. I think he's fired.
It takes a really good coach, though, to flip a team that's not as good. I mean, we saw Jerry Kill the year before, then Rich Rod last year. Like, those guys have proven that they're winners wherever they go. He's not.
Yeah. Amen. All right. There's a couple more names I have on this list, but we're now entering the retirement section.
This is great.
The old folks home. I want you to guess, out of these 4 coaches, which one is most on the hot seat, whether it's they just want to retire or maybe the administration's forcing them out the door. But I have 4 coaches here. YouTube.com/the college experience. Mark Stoops, who's 67-73 at Kentucky, almost took the Texas A&M job before Texas A&M said, we changed our mind. And the Stoops goes, guys, I never took that gig. That was all bullshit. That's one. 67 and 73 at Kentucky, but coming off a terrible season. Kirk Ferentz, who's 202 and 124 at Iowa. You know me, I'm a huge Kirk Ferentz guy. I think he's one of the best coaches in college football. Mike Gundy, a great coach. Yes, I'm a man. I'm 40, 169, 88. Played at Oklahoma State as well. And then Kyle Whittingham, who's 167 at 86. He's already named a coach in waiting, and Morgan Scally is defensive coordinator. But you wonder, first, let me ask you this. Which one does the administration want out first? Or boosters / administration?
Good question. First off, number one is not in the same class as 2, 3, and 4.
Agreed.
Like Ferentz, Gundy, and Whittingham are legends. They've done an unbelievable job at their year. In my opinion, they should be able to go when they want to go. With that said, I think Gundy might be the one, just because Gundy always ruffles the feathers and says "fuck you" to the system. And it doesn't help that he went 0-9 last year in the Big 12. Now, with that said, that means they're going to go 9-3 this year and 7-2 in the league, because that's what Gundy does when his back's against the wall.
He took a big pay cut. And I know he loves that university. He actually genuinely loves the university. So that makes it another hard fire, is like, he cares about the university. So, but I do think that's probably the correct answer. But I'm going to say this one is neck and neck with it, because I think Stoops flirting with the A&M job, even though Kentucky, like Texas A&M, has endless money. Why wouldn't you? I think this is one where I do think the fans are getting a little sick of it. And I think that the fans, I just did a Kentucky podcast the other day, and when I was talking to the host, he was saying that, I think we want to change up something. Now I know it's beware what you wish for, because you were terrible pre Mark Stoops, I guess Rich Brooks, pre Rich Brooks, let's say. But I kind of think this is the one, if I had to bet. I also think Stoops hates the NIL era probably more than the other guy. The other ones, I think all of them hate the NIL era personally, or the transfer portal era more so to speak. But I could also see Ferentz. So who's the most likely to actually just quit because of the times, though? Because I think it's Ferentz.
I was going to say Whittingham. I think Whittingham naming the coach. And real quick, back to the Stoops thing. His record's not good, but his record's really bad when you take out those first 3 games out of the year. He's 28 and 62 in SEC games. And to me, getting rid of the East Division, and now you to me, it's just the cream is rising to the top. You're finding out that they were never really that good. No, and even if you want to take out his worst 2 years, there's still 27 and 47 in the SEC. That's when you take out his 0-8 and 1-7. So I understand why Kentucky fans would be ready for a change. They don't beat anybody in the SEC. I know they're Kentucky, but I would go Whittingham, just because it kind of seems like this is the final hurrah for the old ball coach there in Salt Lake City. I love all 3 of these guys, so I wish they could coach forever. But
who's most likely to make the college football playoffs this year?
Gundy or Whittingham? It's the Big 12. The Big 12 is such a spin.
You can't write off Ferentz, though. I mean, he's so close every year. He's if you go 9-3, you're on the fence of it anyway.
Let me ask you this, though: if they're 9-3, are they going to put him in? No way. Any tiebreaker, they will not win because they're not sexy.
Sometimes you might have to, though. But yeah, you're right. I mean, they took SMU over Alabama last year.
True.
Sometimes you might have to. But yeah. Anyway, we'll see. Obviously, I think it's one of the craziest years from the coaching point of view. Imagine if some of these guys retire, and imagine college football with job openings at legendary programs. I mean, you're talking. It would not be that far fetched to say LSU, Florida, USC, Penn State, Miami, all open up this year. Auburn also. You could really. I think it's going to be next season will be the craziest offseason. Some of these ones are not. I mean, obviously they're not going to survive some, but there's potential dynamite for some of the most winningest programs in the history of college football. Oklahoma, USC, Nebraska, LSU, Florida, Florida State, Miami. A lot of winning at those programs over the years. Which before we get out of here, just because we gotta go. But what is the firing you would trust most? Do you have a top 5 of like, there's no way these ones are surviving. There's no way that they're surviving. Do you have a top 5 there? Cause I have, to me, like the ones I couldn't, to me, Trent Dilfer was one that I just thought, and I don't even know that expectations are that high there, but I just thought the way they've gotten beat, I just can't see him sustaining, a winning, like they're not gonna be able to win. I know it's year 3 and you finally got your guys in maybe, but I just don't think they'll be able to make up for being that bad so fast. So that was one that I thought I would bet that he's fired. And I feel decent about that. Sam Pittman was another one that I thought I feel pretty fucking good that he's fired, even though I love the guy, but I feel pretty good about that. Luke Fickell was another one where I thought I feel pretty good that he's fired. And I believe my 4th and 5th ones, which were actually a little more challenging. I thought Brent Pry was my 4th one there, just with the uncertainty. I haven't been a big fan of the coaching in game, and Scott Satterfield was my 5th. I think those are the most 5 likely firings in college football with the coaching fronts coming into the season. How about you?
Hilarious. I think we actually may have had the same 5. I had Satterfield 1, maybe a little Big 12 bias that I've watched him so much and just how bad his teams have been. I had Pitman 2. I think he's actually the first coach fired. Fickell was 3. I don't think they get to a bowl game. And then I had the 2 G5 guys. Combs at La Tech. I don't see it working with him. And then Dilfer. I had to throw Dilfer.
Yeah. So Cumbie at Louisiana Tech. But yeah, Dilfer, you said Combs, but
Combs after he gets fired. Yeah.
Yeah. Trent Dilfer and Sonny Cumbie is one that I think, that one makes a ton of sense too. Folks, that's our show. Make sure you check out Moneyline Mac on Twitter at Moneyline_Mac and check out the college basketball experience transfer portal episode that'll be coming out tomorrow. We'll be back talking college football, man, every night, 9:00 for the most part. Obviously the weekends we go dark, but talking college football, season's right around the corner. Can't wait. Once again, Moneyline Mac on Twitter at Moneyline_Mac. I'm on Twitter at TheColbyD. The college football experience is on Twitter at TCE on SGPN. Once again, YouTube.com/The College Experience. Hop on over there, please. If you can, hit that like and subscribe button. It really helps us. Also, if you can hop over to iTunes, give us a 5-star review, iTunes, Spotify, whatever. That really helps us. Sponsors always look at that stuff. We are grateful. We'll be back tomorrow. Till next time, this is the College Football Experience Hot Seat Edition. You better start thinking about yours. And we out of here.
Run and shoot. We can really run and shoot. And the whole team's looking and the whole world's looking with the cameras. Run and shoot. We can really run and shoot. And you know what you're getting because the books we written with the cameras. Everybody's trying to stop this team, and we keep on knocking them dead. They make opposing coaches wanna cuss and scream and pull their hair right out of their head. Run and shoot. We can really run and shoot. And the whole team's looking and the whole world's looking with a camera. Never been a time in a team so badly. We waited now for all these years to watch Tim